Greetings. This is Mr. Hackett from Forest Park High School. Um, could you please tell me your educational background?
I have a Bachelor of Science from Eastern Michigan University and a Master's in Instructional Technology with a focus on curriculum writing.
Excellent. Now, you just have a master's? Is that what you said?
I have a Master's, correct.
Okay. Okay. Um, how many years have you been teaching, and what's been your professional kind of curriculum?
38 years.
Yeah.
And been doing what I'm doing now in instructional technology since the state initiated the objectives in, I believe it was 2006.
Okay. And did you teach prior to that?
Oh,
you
yeah.
taught, right?
Yeah, I was in the classroom, started in middle school, and then went to a private school. And when I did all the athletic program, I did the athletic director, bus driver, call the coaching, everything like that. That was down in Florida. And then I moved back into the high school and coached a lot of football and coached soccer, football, and golf in Florida. And then came up to Virginia in 1996. Yeah, I believe it was 96.
Okay.
No, I mean, excuse me. I came up at Stafford County. Wait a minute. I had 12 years at Stafford and 20 here, so that's be 32 years ago.
So that would be in 86.
86. There you go.
86. Because my son's 22
Yeah,
and he was born in 96.
Yeah,
okay.
and I was going to say 86. Wait a minute. I have two kids, and
yeah.
we didn't have them when I came up.
Right. Okay, so that kind of talks about the specific roles as a professional. And how do you look at current trends and issues in the field? How do you identify them?
You really need to look at national and international issues that are addressed in focus groups and conferences. Anytime you go to a conference, you tend to you meet like-minded people. You get to some of the leadership within ISTE, INOCAL, VISTE. There are a lot of FETC. There are a lot of national organizations that tend to look at technology in general because it is an ever-changing phase in society. You know, it was funny because I was looking at something we were talking about today is the 50th anniversary of the internet.
Oh, wow. Is it
So
really?
today, 50 years ago today, the internet basically was born. And that was AOL, you know, America Online and so forth. And the whole battle between Netscape and Microsoft and Internet Explorer, those issues were very early on. But you just tend to say to yourself, okay, the internet came about 50 years ago. Look where we've come since then, and all the different browsers and all the different things that are happening. So really to identify trends and so forth, you need to sit down with classroom teachers and other people, instructional people in mind, and start to say to yourself, using like a SAMR model, I mean, am I just going to substitute, you know, one thing for another, or am I really going to redefine how students are learning and teachers are teaching? That's where we are in the instructional technology field. Really, we want to change the way teachers teach and students. We know students learn differently.
Right.
And they're still sitting in rows and sitting in chairs. They're still taking the same types of tests and so forth. And we've just delivered things delivery with technology. We offer them an iPad, or we offer them technologies. That's really not changing. How do we change it? Really, is just much more explorational. And the kids can really search out and get the information, collaboration, and so forth. So all those trends tend to come about through publications and conferences and so forth. That's where you really learn.
So one of the things this is what we initially talked about is that the one thing that I'm approaching for part of my research is that students just putting technology out there to put it out there just is not working for them. They can't, I mean, you can have them do an Edpuzzle, or you can have them do a Quizlet, and you can have them do that, but if they don't understand what their goals are and what we're trying to achieve, then they kind of just kind of do it, but they don't know why. I mean, is there anything addressing that in technology? Is it just like how to use the technology to enhance it? Do you see the difference?
Yeah, well, absolutely. But I think one of the critical mistakes that people make, and I make it myself, and I hear it a lot, technology is just another tool. The instructional environment is changing. I mean, you really have to be more. I mean, are you looking at the cognitive development of students? Are you looking at different ways in which to approach it? I think the real change is project-based learning. project-based learning is the environment I think students are beginning more comfortable, and teachers are getting more comfortable with having kids show that they've learned it, rather than, you know, take a test to show, to express how they learn. Because of project-based learning, I think technology now has a new place. And now when you tell a kid, I need you to show me this, then they may pull out their phone and start doing a video of a conversation.
Right.
Now they're using technology because it's just to get into a game, a Quizlet, or the apps in general. You know, again, that's not that much different than doing it on paper.
Right, it isn't, because I've been struggling myself because I have the technology, because I'm in this lab this year, and it's not saving me time. It's actually taking more time because I'm now creating the assignments online that I had on paper, thinking it would be more effective, and it hasn't been. The only thing that I'm doing is they are doing collaboration right now on a project, so they have to use Google Docs, and they've shared it all with me so that they can work on projects together.
Excellent.
So they're doing that, but the other stuff it actually takes more time to set it all
Well,
up.
the only good thing about a lot of these programs is they do have an assessment tool built into them, and by doing that, you can pull data from that. Right. And we know, and that's the one thing you're going to find out more in instructional technology as a coordinator myself, it's you start to look at the data.
Okay.
And the data that's being pulled from the technology tools is very important, and it really is. At the school, our school here, we use ROSWorks, and you can break down the whole thing based on every single standard and everything you're doing, and it really is much more of a focus on you know, okay, now I can begin to identify where my kids are lacking, and so forth, and that's a good use of technology. Again, you know, just giving a kid a laptop or a tablet or so forth, thinking that's going to change how they learn. No, it's not going to. It's really going to be much more of like the products that they produce from using the technology that I think that'll be more instructive.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so that kind of answers that. We kind of looked at the trends, impact, and decisions. What do you think is the next technology that's going to have an impact on teaching? That's number 6.
Well, I mean, first of all, we have to identify that what's changed with technology is now learning is a 24/7 environment. I mean, kids are constantly on their devices, on technology. They're learning all the time. And what in education, what we need to do is find out how we know that the classroom time is just a small piece of what they do. How does you influence everything they're going to do in education using the technology? For example, if you have a project here, how do they make the relationship between that project and what they may be doing at home and other things? I would say that you know, if, as I've pointed out before, the Horizon K-12 reports are outstanding. If you look at 2 years of technology, it's outdated. It's outdated, and it's very costly to try and make short-term changes. You really need to look at 5 and 7 year trends, adopting these things both in the current educational environment and the future. One of the real areas which I think a lot of education is going to go is the virtual environment. You're going to start seeing a lot more virtual. The technology itself is becoming much more accessible at a classroom level. But you put on a set of glasses and you can go to Jamestown. You know,
I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that virtual stuff. But that's kind of cool.
But you know, when you start thinking of history, you start thinking, you know, no, I wasn't around when George Washington was out here in Mount Vernon.
Right.
Now, if I put virtual glasses on and was able to kind of like emulate that sort of environment, I may be able to see why they did the things they did.
Right.
Whereas today we say it doesn't seem right. But back then it's kind of like, you know, that's a long trail. And you're going to have to ride horses, and sometimes the roads get wiped out. And how do they have to do the traveling? You know, why didn't they go farther? Well, they got the mountains.
I grew up when 95 didn't exist down in Florida, so we had to travel a lot differently than we do today. That's for sure. Okay, so looking at how do you make recommendations to the principal of the school? So how do you get things moving, so to speak, to introduce new technology here?
Well, you do as much as we talked about before, and you really start to deal with much research and development outside, trying to get the trends and so forth, what's happening. Okay. But quite frankly, in education, it always is going to come down to cost and equity. They're the two real important things. I mean, who's going to get it? Is it a cost that we can push throughout the school? In the county, for example, they bought these smart boards, and they insisted every single classroom have a smart board.
Right.
Well, by the time these smart boards were instituted in every single classroom, they were outdated already, and they are outdated. I mean, we'd be much better off with just large TV screens that we interact with on casting and other things. Most teachers do not actually physically get up there and write on the boards, but now there's other ways to do it. You can do an Apple TV and interact. So I think when I go to the principal and ask him, he tends to come to me more than anything else.
Right.
I would suggest if you were in the same boat as I am, just say, what's my budget? And then you start to look at failing technology in the school to replace. And then you start to look at how can we most equitably advance technology. Do we buy, for example, 2 years ago, you're buying laptop cards with a computer at $800 a piece.
Wow.
Today, you're buying a Chromebook card at $200 a piece.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, I got 4 more Chromebooks in there. Now I can buy more devices, put them in the kids' hands,
right,
and they're just as effective. So I mean, cost and equity.
So we talked in our pre-conversation about the ethical and legal issues. So copyright and accessibility were the two big ones that we talked about. Was there anything else that you thought of?
Yeah, digital citizenship is a critical element, because digital citizenship, I mean, to be a member of society, you need to be a good citizen. And there are certain things that you need to do, and you need to be comfortable with, in your surroundings. Digital citizenship is just as important. You need to understand that there are rules and regulations that really kind of move forward. There is bullying that goes online. There are certain things that happen online,
right,
that used to be in the classroom or in the neighborhood. Now they're online. So it's a real important. We need to create digital citizens. We need to really think in how do we, early on, do we get kids to believe or to understand that this is a tool that can be very destructive. And
it can be.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. I mean, I can see it sometimes in the classroom, and you can see it across the room, and you're like, what are you doing?
Well, you can go online and you can figure out how to make a bomb.
Yeah.
Is that an appropriate thing? I mean, if I'm a digital citizen, and I constantly tell my kids all the time in the school.
Don't type that on these computers.
Yeah.
They'll come and shut you down.
Exactly. We'll find that out. And I think a lot of the things we're trying to make sure the kids understand is they have a digital portfolio and a digital footprint that they're starting now.
Right.
And as an instructional technologist, the first thing they need to know, and I need to tell them, is that everything you do is there forever. Right. You're not getting rid of that. You may think you've deleted it, but it's really not deleted. So you posting the pictures you post, saying the things you say, are going to have ramifications down the road. So being a good digital citizen at an early age makes you aware of these. So I would highly recommend digital citizenship being incorporated in elementary schools all the way through.
I agree. I was an admission counselor with Longwood, and we would actually go out there and search to see what was out about each student if we're doing admitting them. Yeah. And it was always very eye-opening. We were like, ooh, or ooh, ooh, they have alcohol, they're underage, or they're doing something just not right. So yeah, I completely agree with that. Let's see, do we have anything else? We're skipping 10 since we're a public school system, which is about the faith-based.
Still based on the fact that you're doing this with Liberty University, I mean, moral ethical issues are always a concern. But so much of what we do in education has a foundation within our own moral compass.
Okay.
Those who venture outside of this box must be aware of the consequences. So you really find that, aligning faith and morals in the educational environment are the same thing should be in the digital environment, the digital world. You still have that same sort of set. It should guide our educational experiences always. Whether or not you're faith-based or not, it makes no difference. You still should be making good choices regardless.
I agree with you. And then finally, what advice do you have for a future professional entering the distance education or educational technology field?
Well,
it's kind of, we talked about that a little
bit.
Yeah,
as with most education, instructional technology is a moving target.
Yeah.
There's so many new resources, each having their own value. In the market-driven educational system, it's best if we centralize our infrastructure. It's better that all of our computers are bought from one location, so we're all on the same devices and so forth. and as well as our hardware management, as well as our software management. All we can always find new ways to improve technology, since change and the way students learn are always going to be evolving. But I think the future is with distance learning and education really is it's not something, it's something that you have to always think outside the box. It's the classic model that when this school opened up, kids were still in rows and seats and desks, yes, and all that. And nowadays, orderly chaos is a good classroom environment. And when you walk in, and it's kind of like nobody really knows what's going on, but all the kids are doing work. I'd love to see more of that.
I enjoy those type of environments too. So what I'm hearing is really we have to use whatever technology we have in a better way so that it is more meaningful for the student. So not just, oh, we have a teacher being older, obviously, than the students. We think differently.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is we're like, ooh, Ed Puzzle, it's kind of cool and neat. And they're like going, yeah, it's just one more thing. And so we have to start thinking even more different, not just taking a different technology and using it, but changing the way we think. Because these kids are, I did a business management thing, and they're staying up and they start their homework at 10 at night and get done with it at 2 or 3 in the morning. And then they go to bed and they're here and they're asleep all day. So we have to kind of rethink that, I think.
Oh, yeah. I think in education in general, I think there's a lot of changes that are going to be coming about. I think the one thing that I've been doing a lot of presentations for is the physical environment is one of the most noticeable changes that have made a difference.
Right.
Kids don't want to sit in desks and chairs. They want to move around, and that's what they do in their real life, and they learn that way.
Right.
I mean, when I was in high school, which is long time ago, we still had an open lounge that kids could get down and go to and socialize and interact.
Oh, okay.
There's why when a student is done, there's High Tech High School down in San Diego, California. When I went down there to visit, it's Qualcomm money. It's one of the best schools in the United States. And I walked in there and I asked the teachers about standardized testing and stuff. We don't care about that. I said, what do you mean you don't care about it? You're evaluating it. No, because if the instruction's done right, the kids get it. We don't push it on them because they get it and they take ownership in their learning. We have the highest scores in the state of California.
Right.
But they also say that when a kid gets done with their work, they go out to a lounge area and they can work on other classes. They're not tied into. I guarantee right now, half the problems that you would have as a teacher in this classroom are disruptions from kids who are not focused on what they should be doing. They're doing something else. And a lot of them may be already done with what they need to do. Right. They don't know what to do next. It's not easy for a teacher to kind of like do this, go way out here when you still are dealing with a low level down here that you have to spend your time on.
My students all can bring books, they can do other classwork. They have to do my work first, and then they can do whatever they want.
But that's the way it should be. But the question is, could you open that door and let them outside the hall? And if they start walking the halls, what would happen? I know from an administrative standpoint that's where they just they're on the phones, they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. Now, if you had an environment, which a lot of denominational schools and a lot of the private schools, they hold kids accountable, all day long, not just in the classroom. And those kids, when they walk outside of your classroom, if you're sending them to the library, they're going to go to the library. They're going to sit down there. They're going to work.
Right.
Plain and simple, because they feel that the educational environment is something special for me. Kids take this for granted. I'm not quite sure if the future is going to say that every kid has to go to school.
Right.
They have to learn. And I think there are a lot of different learning environments.
I agree with you. And there's a lot of virtual stuff out there now. So I know we offer some, for students who have not been successful, and then ones who just want to take it because they want to get ahead. Right. But there's not a complete program yet.
I've been teaching a class at University of Virginia. It's an online course. It's all about 21st century learning. And I think a lot of teachers, I think what you're going to find out from an instructional technology standpoint, it's not about the students. It's about changing the way the teachers think.
Yeah, I agree.
So many teachers are set in their ways that they understand, and you get to the point like a teacher's teaching AP students, and they're getting 5s on all their scores. I mean, they're saying, why should I change?
Right.
Well, it's not easy to change. It's not easy to tell them it's time to change. But just as you would know, our grade book changed this year. Our
yeah.
our communication systems have
Right.
changing regularly. So these are other tools that are impact how you work, how your teachers work, how you organize that. It's outside of what the students are doing. So instructional technology has a lot to do with, like, is it better helpful to organize, and will organize you as a teacher better. And I'm thinking that I always try to tell teachers, if we're going to do something, it's got to make your job easier.
Right.
It's not another thing on your plate. It's something that's like, oh, now I don't have to do this.
Well, I think it's kind of hard this year because it's the first year, so it's a learning curve. So I still haven't figured out how I'm going to finalize my grades, but I know there's a thing online that I can look at.
I got a video too.
But I'm just saying, it's just, so you have all that plus the new other things that are available.
Right.
You're trying to use it all, but if you try to use it all at once, it's just nothing gets done. Like I'm trying to do Google Forms because I was in a non-lab before,
right.
So I didn't have access. So now I'm trying to make them. I really kind of messed up a couple of tests that their answers were right, but I marked them all wrong. So I had to go back and fix all that, or so, and that's my learning curve. So that takes time.
Yeah, they always used to say, you can't learn without making mistakes.
Right.
So
well, I've done them all this year.
Well, good.
So, anyway, well, thank you so much.
Sure.
I thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Yep.
We do the official handshake.
Thanks.
There we go. I'm gonna stop this. So
Take care.
okay.